So today I'm going to talk about supplements. Supplements is something that comes up a lot, and it actually comes up a lot on my Instagram feed all the time, like persuading me that I should be buying a different type of supplement every day for my menopause. So I thought I would just talk about supplements. Before I start, I want to be very clear that I'm not an expert in supplements at all. I am a doctor. I'm very holistic, and I think a lot about how we can optimize our future health. And as a menopausal woman, I do take some supplements, but this advice is really general. Any supplements that you want to take, you really should talk to your healthcare provider, and you shouldn't just take things on your own without knowing what they are and the benefits of them. I just thought I would do this because there's been so many questions, and I get a lot of questions, not just from my patients actually, but from women asking me, should I be taking this one, that one, or the other? I can't go into amount of detail in the time that I have, and a lot of supplements, there's very limited evidence as well. But not having evidence doesn't mean that it's not beneficial. It just means that the studies haven't all been done. When we think about supplements, they come under a different regulation than prescribed medication. So they come as a food supplement. So the licensing, if you like, is very different. And it also means that you could be buying at the same type of supplement as maybe a friend, but it's made by a different manufacturer. And you might find that it gets absorbed differently, or there are different quantities in there. So when I talk about supplements, it's all going to be very general. I'm not affiliated with any company. I don't make any money out of supplements at all. So what I'm saying to you is just very general and impartial, really. On my website, drlouisenewson.co.uk, we've just uploaded 4 articles. I wrote a very long article about supplements, and we decided to split it up so it was shorter and more manageable. So if you go on to the knowledge part of my website, you'll be able to read those as well, which hopefully will be useful for you. I take some supplements, but actually I take them for my future health. I don't take them because I'm a menopausal woman. And I think this is where we have to be really clear. If any of us are going to take supplements, the first question we need to ask ourselves is, why am I taking this supplement and what is it for? When I started doing menopause work about 10 years ago, I mean, I've done it for decades, but specifically in my clinic and talking and writing about it, there were very few menopause supplements. Now there's hundreds. Every time I go into a chemist or a health food shop, I see great big shelves loaded with different menopause supplements. And this is a generalization, but as a rule of thumb, I would not buy anything that's got menopause or hormone support or hormone or women's health on it, because it's often a marketing ploy. One of the things I worry about is the money that's spent on supplements. And some of these are really expensive. And often when things are labeled for women or women's health or women's hormone health or for menopause, they often come with a price label. So you have to be really careful, like what you're buying and the reason for it, and what the ingredients are as well, because it might be slightly different when you look at the small print, what they actually contain. So as a generalization, most women and men actually should be taking vitamin D. Many of you know vitamin D is a really important supplement, and actually some people think of it as a hormone as well. It's very good for our bone metabolism. It helps keep our bones strong, but it also helps reduce inflammation. It works in lots and lots of processes in our body, and it's a sunlight vitamin. It's very hard to get enough from the sunlight, even in the summer. And actually, to have enough through our skin, enough vitamin D, we have to be in the midday sun when our shadow is shorter than us for at least half an hour for at least 3 days a week. So that's quite a lot, actually. And it's not cumulative. So you can't go abroad to a nice hot holiday and think you've got enough vitamin D to last you until the next time you go on holiday. So definitely over the winter and the darker months, it's advisable to take vitamin D. But actually, there's no harm, really, usually taking it throughout the year. And I'm very routine-y. So I'd much prefer to take something every day and know that I'm taking it, rather than think, is it cloudy outside? Am I going to be sunny, or what have you? So that's what I usually do, is just take vitamin D every day. Usually it's 1,000 international units that is recommended. Some people, even if they're taking that amount, have low levels in their blood, and we measure vitamin D levels just as a guide in most of our patients. So if the level is low, despite taking 1,000 units, we might recommend to use more, or we might recommend to use a different formulation. So sometimes people use an oral spray, or sometimes they use a tablet. It really does vary. So the absorption can obviously vary between brands as well. But I take it, my children take it, my husband takes it. So I'm not taking it because I'm menopausal, but being menopausal, I have to be more aware of my bone health, of course. So anything that's going to keep my bones strong is really important. Now, the other thing to mention is, before we even think about supplements, I think we should be thinking about our nutrition. We have to be really honest with ourselves about what we're eating, because a lot of supplements that we can buy, we can actually get from our food. And so looking at our food is so important. Looking at what nutrients we're having. Are we having enough iron? Are we having enough protein? Are we having a really varied diet to improve our gut microbiome, for example? All of these things are really important. So we shouldn't be just having supplements instead of eating well. And I think that's really crucially important, because I know eating well can be expensive, but it's cheaper and better for us than taking lots and lots of supplements. So that's just one thing that we have to be really careful and mindful of. And then we need to be thinking, like when I talked about vitamin D, you can get some from some food like eggs and oily fish, for example, but it's very hard to get enough. So there are lots of other reasons why we should be having eggs, oily fish, food rich in vitamin D. But even if you're eating really well, vitamin D is something that most people really should consider taking. Now, any other supplements I think are very individualized, really. I don't think there's any other supplement that we should definitely be taking. There's a few things that I think can be useful. I think definitely if we look at omega-3, which is very common in oily fish, then it's very hard, actually. I know the recommendations are to eat 2 or 3 portions of oily fish every week. And that's quite hard. I really like fish, but I do find it hard. And also, it's really difficult now to find fish that's been farmed in the right way. I'm quite particular about the fish I eat, the meat I eat, and even the vegetables that I eat as well, because the way food is manufactured now compared to 20, 30 years ago is quite different. And so we have to be mindful of that. And therefore, we might not be getting the nutrients that we get from the same food that we might have eaten 20, 30, 40 years ago than we do now. So omega-3, there are different types of omega-3, and, well, they're different manufacturers, if you like. And also they contain different amounts of sort of, there's DHA and EPA, and different ratios. So we just need to look and see what they contain. The fish oil that I take actually contains vitamin D, so it's very convenient. I don't have to take a vitamin D as well. I can just take the fish oil with the vitamin D. But I know the people that make the fish oil that I take, so it comes from sardine. I know where the sardines swim. There's no, the water that they swim in is good. And so those little things actually are really important to me. My daughter, my youngest daughter, hates the aftertaste of fish oil. She absolutely hates it. But I have found another one, a different make, that she doesn't have that aftertaste. And there are ones that are vegan as well. So if one doesn't suit you, or you get that taste of fish, I used to be given spoonfuls of cod liver oil when I was younger, and that was disgusting. So actually, for me, I don't notice that aftertaste, but some people do. So it's worth looking at other manufacturers. But like I say, I'm taking that for my brain health, my heart health, not because I'm menopausal. And like I say, my children take it, my husband takes it as well. There is some evidence that having a higher dose can be good for migraine sufferers. Many of you might know that I suffer with migraines. So I do look at what supplements I take for migraine. There is a little bit of evidence, not huge, but it can be helpful. Then The other supplement that gets asked about a lot is magnesium. Now, magnesium is really important for us. It's involved in hundreds of different cell processes, and we use magnesium within the cells, and also the way that our functions work within our nucleus of our cells, within our mitochondria. Lots and lots of dynamic processes are going on all the time, and they need calcium and they need magnesium as well as other nutrients as well. And there are different types of magnesium as well. Now, with magnesium, you can't measure a blood test. I mean, you can, but it's not very helpful actually, because it's not what's in the blood, it's what's in the cells. So it can be misleading. Most of us probably need a magnesium supplement as we get older, because our magnesium generally tends to reduce as we get older, and it's harder to get it from food. Someone once said, and I don't know how accurate this is, but because our food is grown, like our vegetables are grown in different types of soil with more often pesticides, it's harder for the vegetables to get the magnesium in them than we used to in the past. Like I said, I don't know how true that is, but it sort of makes sense, really. Now, there are different types of magnesium, and I've written about them on the website, but they also can get absorbed better if you take vitamin B, different types of vitamin B with them. So the supplement I take has got different types of magnesium in with vitamin Bs that helps the absorption. It's quite a large tablet, and I take them for migraine. Actually, I've tried different types of magnesium supplements, and this is the one that I take is the one that absolutely makes a difference. And I know it does because they ran out recently, and I went to loads of different health food shops. I tried 5 different magnesiums over about 3 months, and nothing else was changing in my life particularly, but my migraines got considerably worse and were a lot longer. So when the other one came back in stock, I took it and felt a lot better. So I think, again, it shows, even if you think, oh, one magnesium doesn't work, you could think about other types. Some people use magnesium through the skin, but that's usually only one type of magnesium. So again, it's worth thinking about what you're taking it for and what type might be right for you. There's a lot of people that don't take or they don't eat meat, and so iron can be a real issue. A lot of our patients, we do iron levels, ferritin levels on, and often find them low, and actually iron absorption can be related to low estradiol and testosterone, because estradiol and testosterone help with iron metabolism, which a lot of people don't realize. But having an iron supplement can be useful, and a lot of iron isn't well tolerated. A lot of people find they get some GI upset or they get some constipation, and they really don't like iron. So it's worth, again, trying. Some people take ferrous sulfate, some people take ferrous fumarate, some people take a slower acting one. The one I take actually contains some probiotic with vitamin C, because iron gets absorbed better when you have vitamin C. So that's why it's better if you do drink juice, for example. You could have some orange juice when you have your iron tablet, and that can help the absorption. But I've tried lots of different iron supplements, and sometimes I get side effects and sometimes I don't. So it is just trying and seeing. But and it depends. Again, this is why it's important to talk to your doctor. Some people have low iron. My youngest daughter's not long started her periods. They're very heavy, and her iron level is really low. So she has a stronger dose, a stronger type, if you like, of iron than I do. So again, it's looking at why you're taking that that iron. Folic acid, again, folate is an important vitamin, and there are different doses, but even a low dose can be very useful. So a lot of people take that as well. Then the sometimes people take vitamin C. Vitamin C can be very helpful for our immunity, so that can be beneficial as well. And then there's a lot of talk about probiotics, and we've written an article about probiotics on the website that you can go to and have a look, and we've broken it down into some of the different probiotics. I'm not going to talk in detail because I'm not an expert about probiotics, but we do know that our gut microbiome is really important. We need to look after our gut because there's a signal to our brain, to our body, to everything else that helps reduce inflammation in our body. What I'm not convinced about from the data that I've read is that we actually know individually what our gut microbiome should be. And mine is going to be different to yours, and ours is going to be different to somebody else's as well. And so I've never had my gut microbiome tested. I know some people do, but I don't know what I'm testing it for, and I don't know how to improve it really. But what I do know is that if I don't eat the right diet with a lot of variety, then it can affect my bowels, and it can make me feel quite sluggish mentally as well. Having a sort of general probiotic can be really useful, and the one that I use, I often just open the capsule and sprinkle it on my yogurt in the morning, or sometimes I take it orally. The one I take doesn't need to be kept in the fridge, because some of them do, and that can be a pain if you're traveling. But it really varies. And sometimes people find that sometimes they get some GI upset when they start taking probiotics, but that can settle with time. Or sometimes people find they feel better taking another one. If you've had a course of antibiotics, for example, if you've had a urine infection recently, you should absolutely take some probiotics for a few weeks after having the antibiotics. My husband quite often travels to Africa to do some charity operating. He volunteers and teaches people, and he recently came back from Ethiopia, and he takes really strong probiotics. He's been several times now over to Africa, and he always comes back ill. So now he takes some really strong probiotics when he goes over there, and he often gloats that he's not nearly as ill as his colleagues, but this time he came back and he was really ill with a horrible gastrointestinal upset. So it doesn't always help protect, but again, he wouldn't take those strong probiotics all the time, but he does take them when he's away. So again, it's very individualized really. Some people ask about calcium. Calcium we should be getting from our diet. There was a study quite a long time ago now showing that women and men who took calcium might have an increased risk of heart disease. The study wasn't great, actually. And the doses of calcium are usually quite low. But I do think we should really be looking at how much calcium we're getting in our diet rather than going for a calcium supplement. Some people, thinking back about our bones, take vitamin K as well as vitamin D, and that can be beneficial. My only sort of hesitation with it is it's more expensive. And so I tend to take the vitamin, I've got vitamin K and D combined, and I sort of take one a week, or twice a week when I remember, and the rest of the time I just take vitamin D because it ends up cheaper as well. But there's no harm taking vitamin K as well. Lots of people ask about collagen. I get that in my feed all the time about taking collagen. I've done a YouTube live with lovely Dr. Saj Rajpal talking about this. He hasn't seen any good evidence, and we know that our hormones build collagen and help from within, and it's always better to try and do things naturally, in my mind, rather than taking something. The other thing is that there are lots of supplements, like I say, marketed for menopausal symptoms. And I think, again, this is what I was trying to say at the start, is we have to think about why we're taking a supplement. Are we taking it for our symptoms, or are we taking it for our future health? And I think it should be the latter. I think we should be taking supplements for our future health rather than for symptoms. If we're getting symptoms, we need to be thinking, what are the cause of those symptoms? And if we're taking HRT and we're still getting symptoms, we should be optimizing the dose and type of hormones. So all three hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. And it can take a while to balance those, obviously. If we're not taking hormones, then we need to be thinking about what we're taking and what the evidence is and whether they help and what symptoms we're trying to improve, because a lot of supplements might help with flushes and sweats, but they might not help with the mental health symptoms. They might not help with improving our future health. And a lot of supplements in this sort of menowashing phase that we're at, where we're being sort of heavily marketed at having all these menopause supplements, actually are just focusing on symptoms. And I think these companies are missing a trick, because I'm more concerned about my bone health and heart health than I am actually sometimes about symptoms. And that's why I take hormones. But if I'm thinking about supplements, I'm thinking about it for my future health rather than thinking about it for my day-to-day. Look at the small print of the contents. One lady was taking a supplement and she was feeling quite sick and she couldn't understand why. And we looked together at the supplements, and it contained some porcine ovarian tissue. So that's like pork tissue from the ovaries and some bovine brain tissue. So some beef tissue of it was from the pituitary gland. Like, it was just weird. And this lady was even a vegetarian, and she was mortified to think she was having something from animals that she'd been sold very expensively, actually, from a health food shop. And her sickness went when she stopped taking this supplement. So really look and scrutinize what you're taking and why you're taking it. And if you're taking a few different supplements, make sure you're not doubling your amounts, if you see what I mean, because you don't want to be taking too much of something, and it's a waste of money, really. When we think about vitamins, if we have too much in our body just excretes them, so it just weeds them out. Sometimes vitamins or supplements can change the color of your urine, and so that's just something to ask. If you are taking them, it could ask the person that you're buying them from, is it going to affect me or affect my urine? Because it can be quite alarming if your urine changes color and you're not quite sure why. So they're sort of the main supplements. I mean, there are loads and loads, and there are loads of experts that can talk about supplements. And there's, like I say, there's more on my website, but I'm quite cautious about what I'm taking and why. The other thing people have asked about is creatine and protein. And again, I think you just have to be really, really careful. Sometimes I use a protein powder on my granola, but it's quite a particular one, because some of them have just synthetic, really, and I don't eat processed foods, and I don't want to start having something that's processed that's got protein in it, and I just don't want to be having synthetic things when I could be having natural food. And I think we just have to keep going back to food. Some of these things are really easy, like these drinks that you can make or whatever, if you're really, really busy or you've really short of time. But I really plan my food ahead, and that's partly because of having migraines. I have to, but it's really important for me that I have a varied diet, and it's a fresh varied diet, or could be frozen, but something I've made fresh and put in the freezer, rather than something that's processed or marketed. And it's the marketing of these things that worries me the most, and it seems to get worse because there's a lot of money to be made. So we often think it's good because it's got lovely packaging and lovely font and lovely writing and lots of nice spiel. But actually, I think the most important thing is thinking about our hormones, having those balanced, thinking about our nutrition, thinking about any movement, exercise we do, and then a lot of need for supplements actually then reduces. A lot of people thinking about their adrenal gland, about adrenal stress, but actually that can be associated with progesterone. And a lot of people, when they've got the right dose of progesterone, natural progesterone in their body, find that any stress really does reduce, and then they don't need to be thinking about additional supplements. Now, I'm going to put on my glasses because I can see there are quite a few questions here, and I want to try and get through some of them for you. Oh, one lady, is not a supplement, but she fell for a Lady Care Knicker magnet. Oh dear. I presume it didn't last, didn't work. These are for flushes and sweats. My sister-in-law years and years ago used one, and it got stuck to the trolley when she went shopping. So that's a bit of a hazard for them as well. I take vitamin D, B12, turmeric, magnesium at night. Turmeric can be very anti-inflammatory, so it can be really good. Sometimes turmeric with pepper, ground pepper, gets absorbed better. So if you can get hold of the real deal, then it's always better as well. Different people are talking about what they're taking. Let's see, which type do you recommend for what do you recommend for migraines? Well, again, I've sort of spoken through that as well. I mean, my daughter has worse migraines. She takes slightly different supplements. So that's where being individualized is really important. The optimum ferritin level is an interesting question, because most blood laboratories say it's normal, even if it's low. So in an ideal world, you would want it above 75, but a lot of labs say normal is between 110 and 300. But if it's as low as 10, that's really low. I would much prefer my patients to be above 75 for their ferritin level. If I have to take all these products, I'm late for work. It's a product that's all in one. So on the articles that I've written on the website, I have put some hyperlinks of some of the better, well, not better, just the ones I'm more familiar with. And I asked somebody to help me write the article as well. the ones that I take mainly are made by a company called BioNutri, and I just because a lot of them are combinations, so I don't have to take loads and loads, and they're also made that I can take 2, 3, or 4 of their products together because they know what they're doing. They haven't got huge marketing. Their website looks quite old-fashioned, but again, I like that because they're not forcing it down people. But it's just yeah, anything that we can hack to have less, and obviously it's cheaper often as well. So L-theanine magnesium does a good job because it's brain blood barrier crossing. That's really important, the type of magnesium. Is it worth taking Rhodelia during stressful times? It really varies. Try and grow your own veg. Yeah, absolutely, if you can. But if you're like me, you won't have time to do it. But anything that we can have that's fresher as well. Desiccated thyroid bovine. Yeah, I mean, this is a whole debate actually about ARMOR, the thyroid hormone, which a lot of people absolutely swear by, and it's been very sort of almost controversial because some doctors don't think it's does anything, but actually patients I've spoken to, their life's been transformed by it. Is this recorded? Yes, it is recorded. It's going to go on my YouTube. So I'm just going to answer. There were a few questions on my Instagram that I came today. So let me just try and find these as well, just before I finish, just to try and, for those people that, hang on, let me just find it, who asked questions today. Here we go. Let me just find them here, because some of them are quite useful, I think. I take, here we go. I take daily mixed vitamin B, but my urine is bright yellow. Does that mean I'm taking too much? No, not necessarily, because again, it's not because you're taking too much. It's just some of the byproducts sometimes. And that's important. It's not just what's the product, it's what it's made in. It's a bit like any medication like micronized progesterone. There are different formulations in the UK. And some people have awful side effects with it. And it's not the progesterone, it's what it's made up in as well. Should I take adaptogens for stress, ashwagandha? I mean, some people do, but I don't know. I just think let's think about why you're stressed. And of course, there's loads of stresses in life. Like I say, balance hormones. If you're taking hormones, really think about the progesterone, having the right dose of the natural progesterone, even if you've got the Mirena coil or had a hysterectomy. I do a lot of meditation actually, and that really helps me when I'm stressed. It's a lot cheaper than taking a supplement. But I think as long as you're not taking a supplement that's harmful in any way or going to interact, none of the supplements, by the way, will interact with natural hormones. Some of them might interfere with like St. John's wort can interfere with synthetic hormones, but that's very different because the natural hormones are, like I say, natural, so they're not going to interfere with what you take. Bovine collagen is being pushed. Waste of cash and terrible for the environment. I would agree with that. Let's see. Is it worth taking collagen? No, lots of collagen questions, but I've already said that and listened to Saj as well. B12. So again, you know, some people don't absorb vitamin B12. I take vitamin B12 occasionally because I don't think I have enough in my diet, and I take it as an oral sort of drops actually. But there are people that have pernicious anemia and need to have the injections, so it's worth thinking about that as well. DHEA supplementation. I don't prescribe and recommend DHEA just because I've never had any experience with it, and most of my patients get better with what we advise and help with hormones, and then with everything else as well. Doesn't mean it doesn't work, but I just don't have any experience of it. Calcium supplements, we've talked about this. Oh, lion's mane. I think mushrooms are very interesting. And again, I'm not an expert here at all. But lion's mane, I think, is interesting. My husband's actually reduced his coffee intake phenomenally by using lion's mane and some of the coffee, some mushroom coffee as well. So that's not really a supplement, but actually it's been very interesting watching how much better he is without drinking so much coffee. And a lot of things, you know, just habit forming really. I don't do caffeine, I don't drink caffeine, I don't drink alcohol. But I can see with him, he's not having caffeine. His blood pressure's come down a bit. He says he feels mentally a lot clearer. But that isn't a supplement, I know. But anyway, just for you to say, evening primrose oil, someone's asked. Now that's very interesting, because that's sort of quite old-fashioned. Many of us were given evening primrose oil in the 80s and 90s, and then all these other sort of newer type supplements have overtaken. But I think there is a role for it. I think for some people with PMS, it can be beneficial. I do sometimes take fish oil and evening primrose oil as well as fish oil, and it does help my nails actually sometimes, and my skin. So again, it's no harm taking it. My daughters take it, and my youngest daughter, I think it is helping a bit with her sort of hormonal changes as she's 14 and she does have some PMS, but I don't think there's any harm taking it. But a lot of these things, what I would say is, if you're taking something, try it for 3 months. And if it helps, great. But if it doesn't, just sit and think, could I spend my money elsewhere? What am I doing? Is it helpful? And especially if you're like me, there's 5 of us in our family. So whatever I buy, I've got to buy it 5 times over. So that does get quite expensive. So maca as well. Yeah, so matcha is interesting as well. Like my husband started drinking that too. It smells disgusting, and I think it tastes a bit like grass, but some people really like it. Again, when you're taking things that aren't harmful, then I think that's fine. If there are things that are harmful, you need to be thinking, why are we taking it? And again, thinking about the expense too. Worry about the liver damage. I don't know what that's with, but we do, everything we have orally goes through our liver, so we really need to think about that. So thinking about red clover and black cohosh, and again, it depends on who makes it, but some brands actually have been banned because of liver damage. So we have to be really careful. And then the other thing I would want to mention is about phytoestrogens. I have spoken about it before, but phytoestrogens are not the same as estradiol. They're plant-based, but again, we don't know how they stimulate the estradiol receptor. So if you don't want hormones, you should have the natural hormones, because then you know what dose you're taking and we can monitor absorption and that sort of thing. If you're taking phytoestrogens because you think you can't take estradiol, then you shouldn't be taking phytoestrogens, because they can still stimulate the estradiol receptor, and we don't know to what extent. There isn't any real data about it. If you're taking them as well as estradiol because you think you need more, I would see your doctor about having your dose individualized. So someone said pearl powder. I'm sorry, I don't know what pearl powder is. I'm a hormone coach in Switzerland, try to educate. Great. Well, that's really good, isn't it? So I think I've answered most of the questions. I've really kept it very general, because I think it's not my role to really tell you that you should or shouldn't take supplements. I don't want to get too individualized with doses and brands and types. And I'm very conscious that if I say something, I don't want you to take it literally and think, oh, Louisa said this, therefore I must take X, Y, Z. I think the most important take-home message from this YouTube live is, think about vitamin D. Look at your nutrition. Think about what else you're getting. Think about any other things that you shouldn't be having, maybe like your alcohol or your caffeine. Maybe you could reduce that a bit. Think about your iron levels, and it's probably worth having your iron levels tested. And then think about any supplements that might be good for your future health. So I've covered quite a lot, but go to my website, look at the most recent articles. So if you go onto the knowledge section, you'll see those articles there. And it's just food for thought. There's no right or wrong, but generally I think with supplements, if it doesn't feel right and it's marketed and it's very pushy, then I would really think carefully whether you need it or not. But that's just me generally. You know, when I grew up in the 70s, no one really took supplements, and the people there were really quite healthy. We didn't have all the inflammatory diseases that we do now. So, but their diet was generally better. So we do need to be thinking about what we're putting in our mouths other than supplements, really. So I hope that's been useful. I'm sorry about the glitch at the beginning. We're having a few problems with Riverside, but hopefully we'll sort that out. But thanks to you that joined, and some of you will watch it later on. So and thanks all for your support as well, and enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. Thank you.